I'm not going to go through the rioting details, the LA riots, 92 riots in details. I'm just going to give some key takeaways here, right? One, rioters, they targeted Koreatown. Okay, they absolutely targeted Koreatown. And the reason, look, I'm gonna assume a lot of it had to be it was just opportunism, right? Petty crime, opportunism, right? There was no cops. Okay, you see rioting and you see shops being broken in, and cops, they're not there. Or if they're there, they're just watching. They're not doing anything. That and a little bit of bad blood, right? The communities, listen, they weren't exactly buddies. Okay, so now maybe some people within the black community, they felt sort of emboldened or empowered to commit acts of violence, right? Or like, oh, I'm going to get these motherfuckers back, right? The brown and black community, really, maybe there was some of that, right, against the Korean shop owners. So yeah, number two, police didn't come to help. Like I said, the police didn't come to help, but why? You have to understand, why didn't the police come to help the Korean shop owners? Okay, it's not that hard to understand. Look, riots were happening all over Los Angeles, right? And where do you think the police is going to go? Okay, and this is still a problem today, but let me tell you, Asian Americans didn't have priority back then, and they still don't have priority today. Okay, when they were potentially, more upper class neighborhoods where rioting can enter, the police had to be there, right? They had to stop that. So all the focus was protecting the richer neighborhoods, the more wider neighborhoods. Makes sense, okay? And not surprised. And whether it's that and short of manpower, or the police commissioner at the time, just didn't want to help out the Koreatown area. There was a lot of things, okay? There was a lot of things here and there. But at the end of the day, the police didn't come, okay? Some key takeaways, the police didn't come. Number three, small business owners. Look, they had to come up. They had to find a way to defend themselves. Police aren't here, right? The institutions have failed the Korean American community, right? They're being targeted. They're getting shot at. They're getting looted. Businesses destroyed. Years and decades of hard work going up in flames. What do you think they're gonna do? Okay, well, they're gonna defend themselves. Okay, so they're gonna get their shotguns. They're gonna get their rifles or semi-automatic rifles, pistols, handguns, and they're going to defend their property. They're going to defend their business. I know a lot of liberal Asians hated that, right? They hated to see guns being pointed at black and brown people. But guess what? That's the situation that you have, okay? You have one community being so upset about the turn of events, right? With Rodney King, with Latasha Harlins, okay? With the sentencing of Sunja, with the sentencing of the 4 racist cops that beat Rodney, and how all that played out. You have that boiling up. You have the police that completely abandoned the Korean shop owners. Circumstances, okay? It's messy, guys. It's messy. If you wanna learn more about the LA riots, watch LA 92 on Netflix. Great documentary. It's kind of long. It's 2 hours, but if you're Asian American, you should watch it, right? You'll get a little bit more of a deeper insight. So, with all that being said, guys, look, there's history between the two communities. Okay, you have this history. If you want to talk about anti-blackness, you have to understand the history that I just laid out. And I didn't even speak about everything, but you gotta understand the history before you say something, before whatever comes out of your mouth, okay? If you want to talk about anti-blackness, understand the history between the two communities. It's messy. Okay, it's messy. And look, that was 92, right? Now, so moving up in the timeline, post LA riots, you still see many black people in the community. They're still suffering from poverty, okay? They're still suffering from the same things they've been suffering from, but it's getting even worse now. Even worse than the 70s and the 60s, okay? Because now they're going through the crack epidemic, okay? Cocaine was too expensive, so they found a way to smoke it through, and it's called crack. And now they're going through an insane crack epidemic, which leads to a war on drugs, right? And that war on drugs, guess what? Leads to mass incarceration of black men. Problem's getting worse. Okay, problem's getting worse. And and what does that have? What does that do? That leads to just deeper mistrust within the criminal justice system. Okay, I think the offense of catching someone with crack was like 300 times worse than cocaine. And you're gonna have some fucking problems with the criminal justice system when you see that the drug sentencing seem to disproportionately affect black men, the black community. Yeah, you're gonna have some fucking problems. All right, guys, if you want to learn more about that, please watch documentaries Crack. Okay, it's called Crack, and also The 13th, both on Netflix. Really good to really understand history. It's all connected, boys. It's all connected. So the same cycle ensues, right? The same things, the same cycle of hatred, of mistrust, of tensions. It builds, right, throughout the 90s, the 2000s, okay, throughout the 2010s. I don't even know what you call that decade, right? Till today, right? A recent statistic in 2018, the Bureau of Justice statistics show that Asians are 280 times more likely to experience violent crimes. Okay, 280 times more likely to experience violent crimes from the black community than the other way around. Right? Than Asian with violent crimes against blacks are 280 times more likely. 280 times more likely. That's a crazy number. That's an astonishing statistic. Okay, and mind you, this is pre-pandemic, pre-China virus, right? Pre-China virus rhetoric, pre-pandemic, 2018. Now, in all other races, you see that violent crimes happen mostly within their own race, right? And that's just, it makes sense, right? Due to proximity, when people get together, there's drama. I don't know what else to say, right? So that it is what it is. You see black people who are the most violent crimes offenders against black people. Which race? It's black people, okay? Same thing with white people, okay? Same thing with Hispanics, okay? But with Asians, that's not true. With Asians, the majority of offenders are blacks at 27%. Asian on Asian violence at 24%, and white on Asian violence is also at 24%. This is not a huge, it's a 3% larger than Asian on Asian violence, but it is still something to note. It's the only race of people, Asian Americans, experience a disproportionate level of violent crimes from the black community than any other community. Okay, why is that? Why is that, right? And you have to, like I said, you have to understand the history, these racial tensions, these realities. Okay, you want to speak about anti-blackness within Asian community? Well, you gotta see what the communities have been through. Okay, you gotta see what the communities they've been through to understand where it comes from. You have to know that Asians didn't just immigrate to the U.S. and have like this anti-blackness embedded in them. It's in their blood. No. Look, there was decades of mistrust. Okay, there was decades of racial tensions that was boiling and boiling and boiling.